Like every other weapon system in the air defense arsenal, the full potential of Chaparral and Vulcan can be realized only if they are deployed in the right place at the right time. This is what we're going to explore today, how they move to support the Army in the field. Deployment will normally consist of reconnaissance, selection, and occupation of position, and should be a part of every Chaparral and Vulcan unit's standing operating procedures, SOPs. Procedures for reconnaissance, selection, and occupation of position, RSOP, must be thoroughly understood and practiced repeatedly by unit personnel until it becomes routine and second nature to the individuals involved. Units of a Chaparral Vulcan battalion will move often. They will have to move to support maneuver elements, to respond to changes in missions. When the defended unit moves, to provide defense of march columns, to counter attempts at air defense suppression. Since Chaparral and Vulcan units are most often employed as batteries and platoons, the reconnaissance, selection, and occupation of positions will normally be accomplished at battery or platoon level. The RSOP sequence usually includes issuance of the warning order, planning the reconnaissance, briefing the next in command and issuing orders to individuals concerned, making reconnaissance and selecting the position for occupation, planning and preparing the position for occupation, moving the unit to the selected position, occupying, organizing, and improving the position area. Let's take a look at a Chaparral Vulcan battery as it moves to a new location because of a change in its air defense mission. Battery D, commanded by Captain George Bell, is presently located approximately 35 kilometers behind the forward edge of the battle area. Their mission has been air defense of forward landing strip number 7. Enemy air activity has been reduced to harassment of the forward areas due to the recent bad weather. Captain Bell has just received word to report to battalion headquarters for a briefing on a change of mission for his battery. At the Battalion Tactical Operations Center, the battalion commander will brief him on the new mission and issue a movement warning order. Let's look in on the briefing.
Captain Bell, the division is preparing to launch a major offensive in this sector. The Division Support Command is stockpiling ammunition and POL in this general area. This will be a prime target for enemy air once this weather clears up. Captain Bell, the Division Support Command is located in the vicinity of Papa Victor 0595. I want you to move Delta Battery to this area and provide air defense for this critical asset. On the map, it appears to be a position that will permit you to organize a good air defense. But you'll have to check it out by ground reconnaissance. Let the S3 know if you run into any problems. A Chaparral platoon from Charlie Battery will set up around landing strip number 7 when you move. Movement of your unit has been approved by division. Road clearances have been obtained by the S4. Remember, the enemy is listening, so when possible, use your secure commo lines. Say nothing in the clear, but try to keep your radio traffic at a normal level. A note of warning, Captain Bell. G2 has reported the enemy may be using disabling chemical agents, so make sure your NBC people check the area well before you move in. It is now 0830 hours. Your battery will be released from your present mission at 0920 hours. I want your battery in position and providing air defense for the Division Support Command not later than 1600 hours.
At the conclusion of the briefing, Captain Bell uses the FM secure radio link from battalion headquarters to his battery to inform his executive officer of the planned move and instruct him to form the reconnaissance party. Composition of the reconnaissance party is usually spelled out in the battery SOP. The movement order can be written or verbal, passed in person or over tactical communications. It usually includes the location of the new position area, times when movement will occur to include time of release of platoon for movement, time to pass start point, time to clear release point, time to be operational at the new position. As Captain Bell returns to his battery, he starts to plan the reconnaissance. He checks his map and decides on the routes he will use in performing his ground reconnaissance. Captain Bell considers the composition of the reconnaissance party and areas to be examined. As he arrives back at his command post, Captain Bell loses no time in assembling his XO, First Sergeant, and his 3 platoon leaders to brief them on the situation. His briefing includes the orders and information presented by the battalion commander. He then briefs them on the mission, plans, and requirements, and issues orders to individuals concerned.
The First Sergeant and I will depart with the reconnaissance party right after this briefing to perform route and position reconnaissance for the battery headquarters. Platoon leaders, you will conduct a reconnaissance of your respective positions in the defense. The XO will be in charge here. I'll be back in time to lead the main body to the new position. I'll be monitoring the battery command net, but don't contact me unless an emergency arises or you receive a change in movement plans from battalion.
When he completes his briefing, Captain Bell departs with the reconnaissance party. Because of the visibility along the route, the vehicles maintain intervals of 100 meters to minimize the convoy's vulnerability to possible air attack. Along the route, Captain Bell checks to ensure the road will support his unit's vehicles and is clearly defined on the map. No obstacles are encountered on Route 2. As the reconnaissance party continues to move forward, it follows the primary route mapped out and discussed during the briefing. Since the battlefield conditions remain fluid, an alternate route has also been selected. Both routes are known, not only by the reconnaissance party, but by the battery's executive officer and main body as well. As the party approaches the new area from the east, Captain Bell makes a visual examination of the area, verifying points noted earlier during his map study. During his briefing, Captain Bell assigned the platoon leaders general areas from which to select their positions. The ground in the area is firm and will easily support the weight of battery vehicles and equipment. The reconnaissance party parks its vehicles in the tree line, which offers some concealment from air observation as the platoon vehicles move to their positions. The NBC survey team checks the immediate area for contamination. The first sergeant with the personnel from the second and third vehicles conducts a security sweep of the area. When satisfied the area is clear, the first sergeant places one man with a machine gun overlooking the main approach into the area and the others at various points around the area for local security. An immediate ground inspection is begun to determine whether all prerequisites are met for position location. It must be centrally located with respect to the Chaparral and Vulcan platoons. To ensure effective communications, the headquarters elements should be in line of sight with the other elements of the battery, as well as with the supported asset and battalion headquarters. If the terrain allows, one of the most effective ways to arrange the battery headquarters elements is in a standard circle. The terrain and type of cover will dictate the size of the circle. An access-exit road bisects the circle, providing alternate routes of entry to and departure from the site. Traffic may enter or depart using either road, but upon entering the circle, always moves in a one-way direction counterclockwise. The standard arrangement of elements within the battery headquarters is as follows. Moving in a counterclockwise direction from the main entry point, the first installation on the outside of the ring would be the system's maintenance vehicles. Next on the outside, the mess area. To the right, supply. Followed by communications just before the alternate access exit road. Inside the circle is located the first sergeant's tent. Normally, located with the first sergeant is the battery medic and his equipment. Returning to the outside of the circle, the next element is the maintenance tent, followed by the area for motors, and arriving again at the principal access exit road, the circle is complete. There is an obvious advantage in maintaining this standard deployment wherever possible, so that no matter how many times the battery moves, the location of the elements within the battery headquarters remains constant. The position should provide natural cover and concealment, allowing the unit's equipment to be adequately camouflaged. Proper dispersal will minimize damage in the event of air or artillery attack. Elements too closely concentrated may also invite nuclear attack. Having satisfied himself that all prerequisites are met for this position, Captain Bell orders the location of each of the facilities be marked by a stake bearing the appropriate identifying sign. This, of course, expedites occupation by the main force. The driver places a marker at each position the first sergeant designates. While preparations for occupation continue at the battery headquarters area, similar activities are underway at the various weapon positions. Upon reaching the area designated for the 1st Chaparral platoon, the platoon leader is confronted with many of the same considerations faced by Captain Bell at the battery headquarters. As the platoon leader notes any problems not indicated on the map, he must keep in mind that positions selected for weapons must be the best available for fields of fire, communications, accessibility, and survival. More specifically, they should be defendable against ground attack, offer cover and concealment, be sufficiently dispersed, and provide good access and exit routes, and be within approximately 200 meters of positions originally selected on the map. In his area of the defense, the platoon leader selects the location for the platoon command post, which is indicated by a stake. He next selects a secure defensive position to occupy during the hours of darkness. In this situation, the platoon leader has decided to locate this position near his command post. The platoon leader, assisted by the guides, will mark each of these night positions with a stake. As the platoon leader and guides depart to reconnoiter each individual weapon's position, the platoon leader remembers that since their weapon signatures may well give away their positions to the enemy, 2 or 3 alternate positions should be selected in case moves are required to avoid drawing enemy fire. Together with his platoon leaders, Captain Bell quickly reviews their position selections and grants his approval or makes such changes as he feels are necessary. The position reconnaissance part of the operation is complete. Reconnaissance and selection of positions includes route reconnaissance, position reconnaissance, selection of positions for weapons, selection of positions for battery headquarters elements, and site security. At 11:45 hours, the battery commander directs the first sergeant to plan and prepare the area for occupation by the main body.
First Sergeant, I'm going back to bring up the main body. I want you to take the guides and prepare the positions for occupation. Place a guide at the release point, the intersection of Route 2, and at the access road to ensure that all vehicles turn into this location. In addition, I want guides placed at the entrance of the access road to guide the vehicles into their proper positions.
Release points are pre-selected points of departure for the Chaparrals and Vulcans to leave the convoy and move on a more direct route to their positions, rather than continuing all the way to the battery headquarters area and doubling back. After briefing the first sergeant, the battery commander departs for the battery. He returns to the battery over an alternate route that he could use for the movement if the primary route becomes unusable. The first sergeant determines routes into positions to be used. He selects ground defensive positions and has the communications personnel lay wire to them. He briefs each guide on his responsibilities for guiding one or more vehicles and ensures that each of them knows where the equipment is to be emplaced. The battery commander arrives back at the unit's location at 12:15 hours. He then informs battery personnel of the order of march for movement to the new area. Planning and preparing the unit for the move includes establishing the order of march and briefing and positioning road guides. At 12:45 hours, the battery commander starts the movement of his unit to the selected position area. Vehicles are directed into the order of march by the executive officer. Air guards are designated for each vehicle and reminded to maintain continuous watch for enemy air throughout the road march. The battery commander in the lead vehicle crosses the start point at precisely 1300 hours. The march column moves down the road at prescribed convoy speeds. Movement of a unit to a selected position area includes assembling into a march column and movement on the road. In the event of an attack, while moving through open terrain, the convoy's best defense would be to make a run for it, with the widely dispersed Vulcans providing as much defensive cover as possible. The main body convoy moves forward with the prescribed interval between vehicles, which is dictated by such factors as terrain, enemy air activity, weather, and light conditions. The lead vehicle is occupied by Captain Bell. It is followed by the Vulcan platoon quarter-ton truck and the first Vulcan weapon. Behind it are the vehicles belonging to the 1st Chaparral platoon. Then another Vulcan weapon. Next in line are 4 vehicles with headquarters personnel. Immediately behind them are the other Chaparral platoon vehicles. Another Vulcan weapon and the remaining headquarters vehicles. The last Vulcan weapon precedes the final vehicles in the convoy, which belong to the motor maintenance section and the battery XO. The convoy reaches the first release point at 14:40 hours. A road guide directs the 1st Chaparral platoon to leave the convoy and move into their new position. The other platoons will be similarly diverted as their appropriate release points are reached. As the convoy continues along the route, let us accompany the 1st Chaparral platoon for a close-up look at how it occupies its new position. When the platoon arrives, all vehicles are moved off the road into the new position without halting and without closing the intervals. A guide leads each weapon to its selected position. The markers placed earlier by the reconnaissance party identify the tentative locations of weapons. Security is established by the crew members as the squad leader positions the weapon. When this is completed, the squad begins to set up the firing position. The equipment is unloaded quickly and in an orderly manner. Commo wire is strung. Radio and TADS equipment is set up and made operational. Line of sight positioning is checked between TADS and FAR, as well as between platoon headquarters and the battery command post. Placement of the Chaparral is made only after making sure that each weapon will have a complete 360-degree capability for visual sighting of aerial targets. As soon as the platoon leader is satisfied with the operational status of the weapons, platoon personnel begin camouflaging and continue position improvement as long as the site is occupied. Even while the Chaparrals are being made operational, similar work is underway at the Vulcan sites. The marking stakes placed by the reconnaissance party are helpful in quickly positioning the Vulcans. The line of sight requirement for Chaparral communications and TADS also applies to Vulcans. Vulcans must also have an unobstructed 360-degree visual sighting capability for firing on targets. At this site, where Vulcan is defending a critical asset, each Vulcan squad leader establishes a forward and rearward observation post a short distance from the weapon. Here, too, camouflage is important in protecting the weapon position from aerial observation. Communications wire is quickly strung, linking each Vulcan position with the platoon communication system. Preparation of alternate weapons positions is begun as soon as possible to expedite later movement should the primary positions become untenable. Even while the Chaparral Vulcan weapons are being emplaced and brought operational, the remaining vehicles of the main convoy arrive at the new battery headquarters area and are directed to occupy their appropriate positions within the area. Tents are raised and equipment installed for systems operations. Mess. Medical. Supply. And communications inside and around the outer perimeter of one half of the circular layout. The maintenance tent and motor pool occupy the other half of the battery headquarters circle. The first sergeant's tent occupies the center of the circle. Communications wire is quickly strung, linking all the elements of the battery headquarters. Natural camouflage is supplemented where necessary, using artificial materials, such as camouflage nets garnished with local vegetation. With the arrival of additional personnel, perimeter defense is beefed up. Messages now come into the command post indicating that all weapons in the battery are once again operational. When the final message is received from the platoons, Captain Bell immediately passes the information along to battalion headquarters, informing them that his organization is operational. Remember, occupying, organizing, and improving the positions includes becoming operational with the entire Chaparral Vulcan Battery, establishing communications with higher headquarters, establishing ground defenses, camouflage, concealment, and continuous improvement of the position. As each platoon completes its occupation, the platoon leaders begin planning their next move. This includes moving to an alternate position. The position must be one from which they can still furnish air defense for the critical asset. As you have seen, RSOP of a Chaparral Vulcan unit is not complex, yet enough actions take place to make it mandatory that careful planning be accomplished for the execution of the RSOP to be successful. Only when the site occupation is complete is the Chaparral Vulcan Battery restored to its full firepower. No weapon systems can be any better than the men who operate them. It is, as it always has been, the speed and efficiency of the men who operate the weapons that determine victory or defeat on the battlefield. With adequate training, RSOP becomes second nature and is accomplished routinely. Well thought out plans, SOPs, and constant practice are essential to success.